Okay, I'm going to wing this on how to make a furly worm fly. You start with a piece of yarn. In this case, I've chosen black yarn. And the important thing about this yarn is it's a little bit frizzy. You find out if it's frizzy or short staple by folding it against itself, like so, and then pulling on the fibers to try and tug out some ends. If you can do that, pull out some frizzy ends when you're doing this, you got what you want. Otherwise, it's too long a staple and you're not going to be able to tease out what you want out of this. Take that yarn, in this case black. You probably want just a single strand of it, unless you're going to make a big fat furly worm, which is a possibility. So I'm going to separate out one strand of this yarn, like so, and take a fair amount. You always want to take more than you need, because otherwise you're just going to end up starting over. Cut that off. And you notice I don't have a hook in the vise. I've got a straightened paper clip. And the reason for that is we're going to use that in our furling process. I want a red vein to go through this furly worm. So I'm also going to take some red sewing thread. I'm going to cut a length of that too. Now there's my length of red sewing thread. This is how you do the furling. Match up your red thread and your black yarn and run them parallel together to each other. Give yourself a generous working length. Then you start twisting them together into a single twisted strand, but it's under some twist tension. Whoop, got to start over because I let that end of the red thread go free, and I need to maintain that. So you can see we're getting kind of a barber pole, candy cane look with that red thread and the black yarn. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a kind of a midway point on that thread. I'm going to tension it while maintaining that tight wrap, and I'm going to slip it off the end of the paper clip. Boing! You see what happened? It twisted, but didn't twist where I wanted it to. So I'm actually going to grasp the two ends and let them go again. Pop! And now they've twisted themselves together into a single twisted strand with a little loop at the end. You see that? And you see there's a nice red thread, red vein running through there. That should be stable. I should be able to set that aside without it untwisting if everything is worked right. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll set it aside. Remove the paper clip. Put in a hook. I've got one around here somewhere. Okay, the hook is now found. I'm using a number 12. Nothing fancy. What I'm going to do is do a few lead wraps, lead wire. This is number 020, 20 thousandths inch, half millimeter lead wire. This will just give it a little extra drop. If you want to use a bead head instead, you can do that. If you want to use a bead head in addition to this, you can do that. I'll just tuck some of that on there. Give it a little extra speed on the drop, a little extra action, jigging type action in the water when you're pulling on it. Especially in still water, that really helps. Get that on there reasonably well. Good enough for the fish. In my case, I'm using, oh, that's got to start all over again, because my thread is not going all the way through my bobbin. Okay, now I take our thread, our chosen thread. In this case, I'm using monofilament, and I need my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. You start that thread on your lead wrap just to start tethering it in place. You can start with wrapping it up in the hook shank a little bit first. You can start anywhere you want. Let's just get that stabilized. Takes some persuasion sometimes to get that over the hump. Okay, now I've got a secure base for our fly. I'm going to cut that off, tag end. Now we take our previously prepared furl, decide how long we want it to extend and where we want it to start to separate from the hook shank. I want it right about there. I'm going to shorten it up a little bit because once we tease it out, it's going to get longer. So we'll take it out, you know, a little bit beyond the bend of the hook, about like so in this case. Up to you. Take a couple of wraps, get that stabilized on there, bring it back up to the top if we want. And I'm actually going to put a little whip finish on there. No, I don't think I need to do that. I just get that secured down real nice. We'll take the rest of our furl, bring it back on itself. Now I'm going to take a little extra yarn, black yarn, and I'm going to make a body for the fly. You don't have to do this. You can leave the lead wraps exposed. You can magic marker the lead wraps to give them some color. There's a whole bunch of things you can do here. And I'm just going to tie in this yarn. That's good and secure. Back to our furl again. Bring this forward. And now I'm going to wrap this yarn. Doesn't matter which way I go. Just to give it a little body. Give that body a little color. Take one more wrap in the front. That seems secure. Cut it off. Now, we could take our remaining furl, bring it back into a twist if we want, or we can make it straight if we want. Give it some loop, make it loose or make it tight, up to you. I'm going to make it just a little bit loose, and we'll come around. Make sure we got that secured with our tying thread. There's a nice little loopy body. Okay, bring that back. Start forming a head. That also seems pretty secure. I could have made that tail a little longer, but you'll see what happens in a minute. Cut that free. Continue. I need to shorten up my bobbin here. Continue building up a head to help secure the front end of that furl, etc. And then we'll whip finish that. Cut that off. We're almost done. Now, this is a very important step. We're going to take, in this case, some hook Velcro. I'm going to start to tease out those black fibers. Give this body a little extra fuzziness to it. like so. And in particular, we want the same thing to happen with his tail. Start getting that teased out. You don't want to be violent, but you don't want to be too gentle either. Okay, now you can see we've got quite a long tail on there. We might not want it that long, but then we can take toothbrush, anything like that, just kind of comb that out. If it's too long, just pull some out. Probably best to pull it, it gives it a more organic termination. Got a little extra thread here, not sure where that's coming from. I think that came out of the body. We'll just trim it out. Not critical. Now, I'm choosing, in this case, to give it a little red head. Reddish with a magic marker. That's a furly worm. Fish catching machine.